Hey everyone, today we're diving into something that is quietly but powerfully shaping the future of Meghalaya. And look, this isn't just about economics or boring spreadsheets. This is about a debt that's being signed in your name. We're going to unravel the story of this debt, not as a bunch of numbers, but as a real question. Who's benefiting right now, and who's going to be left holding the bill? So let's just start with a really simple question, one that gets right to the heart of everything. When a government signs on the dotted line for a massive loan, who is really on the hook to pay it all back? The answer? Well, it's probably a lot closer to home than you think. And this quote, it just hits the nail on the head. You see, every single loan the state takes today is a promise of a future payment. And it's a promise that's being made in your name, but very likely without your consent. It brings up this really fundamental question of fairness for an entire generation. Okay, let's really dive into this. To get why this matters so much, we first need to get a handle on the sheer scale of the problem. We are not talking about small change here, not by a long shot. The numbers are, frankly, staggering, and they have a direct line straight to you. So here it is, the big headline figure. Meghalaya's outstanding liabilities, that's just the official term for all the money the state owes, are nearly 40% of its gross state domestic product, or GSDP. Now, GSDP is basically the total value of everything produced in the state in 1 year. So when you have a debt that's almost half of that, yeah, that is a very, very big deal. But, a huge percentage like that is still just an abstract number, right? It's kind of hard to feel what 40% of an entire state's economy really means in your day-to-day life. So how does this massive state-level number actually break down to a personal level? This is what it means. When you do the math, that massive state debt creates a notional burden of tens of thousands of rupees for every single resident of Meghalaya. It's a debt you never signed for, but it's one that has your name attached to it. And this right here, this just lays out the fundamental disconnect perfectly. The loan agreements, they're signed by ministers. The immediate benefits, well, they might go to contractors. But the ultimate responsibility, the long-term burden of paying it all back, that falls squarely on ordinary citizens. It falls on you. So here's the crucial part. How does this actually happen? I mean, how does a government loan signed in some fancy boardroom end up costing you money and opportunities? Well, it's a domino effect. It's a chain reaction that quietly makes its way into your wallet and into your community. Here's how those dominoes fall. First, the government has to spend more and more of its budget just paying off interest on old loans. That's called debt servicing. As that cost goes up, the money has to come from somewhere, which knocks over the second domino. They raise taxes and user fees. And the final domino to fall? With so much money going to debt, there's just less left for everything else. So public services and new opportunities, they start to dry up. This is what we mean by the hidden bill. It's not some invoice you get in the mail. No, you pay for it piece by piece. You pay for it through higher prices on things like petrol, through future hikes on your electricity and water bills. You experience it when you're driving on crumbling roads because there's no money for maintenance, or when you find public services are totally overloaded because of hiring freezes. And maybe most invisibly of all, you pay for it in lost job opportunities and fewer new projects that could actually improve your life. And this brings us to the absolute core idea of this whole explainer. This isn't just about messy finances. When debt is used poorly, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a transfer of wealth and opportunity, not just between people, but literally through time itself. The technical name for this is an intergenerational transfer, but let's make it simple. It's like someone running up a massive credit card bill on parties and fancy gadgets, and then just leaving that bill for their kids to pay off. The benefits are all enjoyed right now, but the cost, the real cost, gets pushed onto a future generation that had absolutely no say in the matter. And look, this idea of passing the bill to the next generation, it's not just some theory we cooked up. It is a well-documented process that economists and historians have been studying for years. And what they've found shows us exactly how this creates very real and very serious consequences. For example, thinkers like the Nobel Prize winner Joseph Stiglitz have shown how these kinds of decisions can make inequality way worse. The burden of paying everything back almost always falls hardest on lower-income families and, you guessed it, future generations. Exactly the groups, like young people, who have the least political power to stand up and say no. And it's not a new trick either. The late anthropologist David Graeber gave us the long-term historical view. In his work, he traced how for literally thousands of years, debt has been used as a tool by the powerful. It can be used to enforce social structures and to pull wealth from those who are just not in a position to resist. It is a pattern as old as civilization. Okay, so understanding the problem is the first, absolutely critical step. But just being concerned, that's not enough, is it? The next step is to turn that understanding into actual action. And we've put together a really clear mission for you to do just that. We're breaking this down into a 3-part research mission that, honestly, anyone can take part in. It's simple. Calculate the real burden, engage with your community, and demand a better way forward. All right, your first mission is to become the researcher. Go find the official government figures for Meghalaya's total debt and divide that number by the state's population for these different years. You don't have to take our word for it. You can literally calculate the rising per-person debt yourself and see the trend with your own 2 eyes. Your second mission is to start a conversation. Take what you found and talk to people about it, especially youth groups and student unions. And you can start with this one simple, incredibly powerful question. Your goal is to make this invisible problem visible and get people talking about this burden they all share. And finally, mission number 3, demand change. Start developing citizen charters that call for total transparency. For every single major new loan, the public deserves to see a clear, honest plan. And then, go one step further. Demand a seat at the table. Young people and civil society need to be represented on the committees that advise on these gigantic financial decisions. So we're going to end right where we started with a question. And it's a question I really hope stays with you. All of this debt, this enormous financial obligation that's being passed down through time. Did anyone ever ask your generation if you were willing to pay the price?